Hey, it's Hunt. You found Hunt on Saints. We're talking black and gold football. Do us a favor. Hit the like button, share your comments below, and hit that subscription button so you can get all of our content. Enjoy. Supermarket of the New Orleans Saints, who will be 14th on the clock if everything holds this evening. Guess that's the question, isn't it? To answer it, we'll bring on Luke Johnson from The Advocate, covers the black and gold, and joins us every Thursday on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Luke, how are you on draft day?
Well, I thought I was going to have a great day, and I get an opportunity to watch the Brewers play midday here before the draft, and they just blew a lead, so I'm not doing too great right now, man.
Oh, well, my mood's improved now, so that's good. Look, so how many cups of coffee for you from 8 o'clock this morning until whenever you go to bed tonight?
We really don't want to talk about that. I was known back in my heyday for crushing some chili dogs over at Alec Box Stadium, and my new vice might be coffee, and I don't really want to put out there how much I'm drinking because I might have to make a trip to the doctor at some point. I don't know. I think you can get caffeine poisoning.
All right.
We'll see. I'm going to put that to the test, though.
We'll leave it there. Okay, so I see some things yesterday that made me a little bit nervous about the Saints. One is hearing that everybody's trying to trade up for a tackle, and then two, that James Hurst has retired, and I just feel like that's going to get Mickey feeling like he's got to do something really, really quick, and that makes me nervous. So let's dissect those separately. First, what does the James Hurst news mean for New Orleans?
Well, I memean, right now it means they have potentially 3 open spots out of their 5 starting offensive linemen. I think it definitely opens up the possibility of an interior offensive lineman with one of those first 2 picks. I think I'd still be surprised if they went with a guard round 1, but yeah, I don't think it's completely out of the question, especially if you're talking about one of these players who's kind of maybe a question about what their best fit is at the next level. Somebody like Troy Fashanu from Washington or Tallis Fuaga from Oregon State, 2 guys who are kind of considered in this tackle class, but a lot of people are kind of looking at them as maybe they're best suited to play guard. But I still think that the Saints' ideal scenario is to draft a tackle in the first round, but it definitely opens up interior in the second round, or if they decide to move around a little bit, if they want to try to get some more capital and finally trade back for the first time since 2007. Maybe they pick up an extra day 2 pick and try to address it there. But it's definitely, it's a concern, man. We're talking about 3/5 of the starting offensive line is completely unknown right now.
And that's obviously going to be a concern to Mickey Loomis, who is known to be aggressive and then told you all earlier this week, like, we think trading back is getting lesser players, so we would like to trade up, and that's what we do. So at what point tonight do you think that a Saints trade up could be triggered? Like, how many offensive linemen off the board would make Mickey nervous?
Well, here's the thing that I've been thinking about this morning is everybody and their mother knows that the Saints need an offensive tackle,
yeah.
Right? So if teams really start, like especially if, let's say, the Chargers stay put and draft Joe Alt, right, which is definitely a possibility. If that starts a run on tackles and Tennessee is like, well, now we need to get Fashanu at number 7, there's still the Bears could use a tackle. The Jets could use a tackle. The Raiders could use a tackle. And there's teams behind the Saints who could use a tackle. So, I just think it's definitely, like, it's not like far-fetched that teams see the Saints at number 14, and if this run on the tackle starts, teams try to trade up to go get one of them in front of New Orleans. So I don't think it's a given that the Saints feel like they're going to be comfortable sitting there at number 14 getting the player they want. They might have to make a move up to get one. Obviously we're going to have to see how the draft unfolds. It's definitely possible that the Chargers could trade out of the number 5 pick and team goes up and gets a quarterback.
Yeah.
But I think there's definitely like a doomsday scenario here where they get to number 14 and you look at the picks in front of them and there's 4 quarterbacks and 3 receivers and 4 tackles and Brock Bowers taken, and that's what 12 out of the first 13 picks and a defensive player, and then who do you want to take if you're the Saints in that scenario? I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's definitely like a chance here that they have to move up in order to get a guy they want.
Is moving this year's second round pick something that you'd be comfortable with them doing?
No.
Exactly.
No.
Okay. That's my answer too.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, we know the Saints have never been shy about moving future assets in the past. I think that's definitely a possibility tonight. But they're also doing things a little bit different this year than they have in the past. So I don't know. This is a really tricky spot that they're in. I mean, they put themselves here. They are a team that, because they have no problem trading their future picks, they get into a class like this where they really need help at a lot of different places, and they don't have a lot of ammo to do anything with.
No question. Is there a scenario in your mind where wherever the Saints' first pick is tonight, it is not an offensive lineman?
Yeah, I think there's a scenario. Like if the run on tackles happens, but Brock Bowers is there, I think they would consider taking Brock Bowers. If if the whole thing goes kind of crazy but there's no defensive players taken, which I think is not likely, but I think a possibility. Like I could see him taking Dallas Turner. That feels. It doesn't feel likely though. Like I feel like I feel like 90% sure that they're going to come away with the tackle. Just because it's such a huge gaping glaring need. They can talk about how they want to take best player available all they want, but best player available is likely going to be tackle. And it's also just they don't have any really good starting options right now. I mean, you can talk yourself into like Trevor Penning getting an off season and maybe being a lot better than he was the last 2 years, but like that's a huge gamble. So I don't know. I feel like they have to come away with something on the offensive end, and really that offensive end has to be on the line.
Chatting with Luke Johnson, covers the Saints for The Advocate. He'll be locked in on the draft. You want to follow him on Twitter @ByLukeJohnson. He'll have all your information this evening. Is there a name or two, or maybe a position that piques your interest with the Saints' second pick of this draft coming up on Friday?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be paying really close attention to see what happens with the receivers. I mean, outside of the top four, I think you include Brian Thomas as probably a lock to go in the first 25 picks or so. I think there's a chance for it to get really interesting there. I really like Keon Coleman. I don't think he's going to be there at 45, but you kind of never really know with how teams evaluate wide receivers and what they view as important. Some teams might really need a wide receiver, but they really need a slot. Or it's kind of where you start looking at like Ladd McConkey or Ricky Pearsall. Some teams really might want the run and catch guy, and maybe Xavier Legette goes a little bit earlier than we think. It just kind of that it's all dependent on what these teams view as what they need and what they kind of covet in a player. But I just think it has potential to get really interesting. Adonai Mitchell is somebody who has like this huge upside out of Texas, but he's got some concerns. He might fall. He might fall into a range where the Saints can make a play for him. Xavier Worthy is another guy out of Texas who's like super interesting because he ran a 4.21 at the combine. But he's not just like he's not just like a go ball guy. Like he does some other things. So I mean, I just think it has so much potential to get weird at wide receiver. I think it's going to make it really interesting for the Saints in the second round, because that's really a position they've been linked to at that pick. So it's really what I'm going to be watching tonight after they finish up at number 14.
Biggest defensive need over the next 3 days?
Like if you're looking at the roster as it currently sits right now, I would say safety. But I expect the Saints to be at least somewhat active in free agency after the draft. After they kind of know what they have to fill. And I mean, there's so many like Pro Bowl players available in the free agent safety market still. Like guys still need a home. I think they could address that there. I frankly think they could address some of their offensive line problems in free agency after the draft too. The same goes for wide receiver if they don't want to take that in the second round. If it were me, I was the Saints, I'd be trying to just like take a take a flyer on somebody who plays a premium position, and see if they can play it out for you. See if you can add some cornerback depth. You can never have enough corners. If you've got maybe a kind of a toolsy defensive lineman who hasn't really produced at a high level in college, maybe you can get him in there and see what you can get out of him, because they need some more pass rushing production. I think they could maybe add one of those kind of bendy, undersized rushers who's kind of a one-trick pony. That's okay if you get him in the 5th round. I think they've just got a lot of different areas where they can really address on this team, and I think they're going to have to do it, in part in free agency afterwards.
Try to mix in a cup of decaf here or there, maybe a glass of water, and enjoy the proceedings this evening. And we'll talk next week.
Sounds good, buddy.
That's Luke Johnson, covers the Saints for The Advocate. Follow him on Twitter at @ByLukeJohnson, with us every Thursday. If you're looking for our Saints content and looking for some stuff to get you ready for the draft tonight, we've got a lot of our thoughts on the upcoming draft on our YouTube channel, Hunt on Saints. If you subscribe to that, like it, we certainly do appreciate that. If you're hanging out in the Bayou 4 chat, watching us live right now, we'd love it if you throw us a like as well. Hey, it's on. Thanks for watching Hunt on Saints. Before you leave, help us out a little bit. Hit that like button, leave your comments in the section below, and hit that subscribe button so you get all our content right here from Hunt on Saints. We'll see you next time.